In this video, I'm going to show you how to fill out the permit paperwork for your basement remodel. So in our last video, I showed you how to use home designer software to plan your basement remodel and the layout of your space and where you're going to be putting rooms. And in this video, I wanted to show you then how to take those designs and submit all the paperwork to your local township or town construction office. So if you're going to be remodeling your own basement, or any area of your house really, I highly recommend you submit the appropriate permit application. And what that does is it allows a construction official from your town to review those plans to make sure you're doing it right, you're doing it safely, and then they can check on it and they'll check on it during the course of the construction. So some people feel that it's sort of an oversight that they don't want to get into. They'd rather just hide it and do it themselves because you can end up paying more taxes if your home gets assessed for a higher value. But in the end, you're complying with the law, you're complying with proper construction codes, and it's to your benefit. So something that a lot of people don't talk about is how to fill them out. And what I'm going to do is show you how I filled mine out and what I submitted for the plans we went over in the last video. And then what you could do is kind of use that as a reference when you fill out your own paperwork. All right, so I'm going to show you what I have. So the first thing I wanted to show you was a basement checklist. So this is a document, it's a PDF that's available on my township's construction office website, and it is specific to my township. So what I advise you to do is to check with your local township. Now I'm in South Jersey, so this is specifically for my township. But if you're anywhere in the country, your local township construction office may have some sort of checklist or a guide or something that, you know, they get a lot of questions about how to remodel a basement or how to add a deck, and they put together like a checklist or a guide. Like, hey, these are the things, we keep getting asked questions about this, so these are the things you need to have. And I'm going to go run through mine very quickly and just kind of talk about each of these things. And so when I submitted my application, I submitted this form, I signed it, and I had to check each of these things. So let's start with, it starts with building. Plans must be drawn to scale. Okay, show the floor plan, remodel area. We did that since I printed out my home designer plans. Pressure treated lumber must be used in contact with slab or masonry. So the concrete floor, my foundation walls, I have to use pressure treated. And again, I reflected that in my material order. The top of the frame walls must be fire blocked, and we'll get into how that works in a future video when we actually start fire blocking and working in the basement. But your township may have specific requirements for how that's supposed to look. Insulation, if you're using an airspace, should be left between the walls, the masonry walls, and bad insulation. I'm not using bad insulation, I'm using foam board. Wall finishes must comply with flame spread. Basically, don't use wood paneling. When modeling causes heaters and hot waters to be enclosed, you have to add like vents. We're going to do that. Sleeping rooms are not allowed in basements unless there is an egress. We have an egress, but I'm not putting a bedroom down there. But if I did, it would have to be in the same room as the egress. Smoke detectors have to be installed. Electrical, so they tell you how often receptacles need to appear on the walls. Each room is created must have a lighted switched outlet or an overhead light. Let's see, you need a GFCI outlet for any utility space, like where the furnace is going to be. Smoke detectors required in bedrooms and within 10 feet on the outside of a bedroom. Again, we don't have any bedrooms down in the basement we're adding, so one common smoke detector, like in a common area, will be fine. Plumbing, if plumbing fixtures to be installed, a schematic of drain and supply lines will be required. And I did indicate that on our plans. I actually blew up an area of the drawing where I'm adding the bathroom, and I hand drew over it where the plumbing lines are going to be. Locations of fixtures, so the toilet, a shower, a sink, where I'm running the supply lines, where my sump container is going to be, and how those pipes will be run. And my toilet and sink lines are already installed. I just need to run one for the shower. So we'll be digging up our basement floor to do that. So basically I sign this and I submit this with the plans. But this is really helpful because this is right out of the gate. Hey, this is the crap you need to submit with your plans or with your permit. So make sure you do that. So let's go take a look at some of the permit application now. All right, so this is the permit paperwork and what it looks like. And there is, since we're remodeling our basement, there's going to be a general construction permit application. There'll be a building application. There'll be an electrical permit application because we're adding outlets and remodeling the basement. There's a plumbing subcode because we are adding a bathroom. And then there's also a fire protection subcode. So I'm going to run through each of these. I'm going to do it fairly quickly. I don't want to waste your time here. But I just want to highlight the key things you need to know how to fill. Because if you look at this document, it's kind of intimidating and it's a bit overwhelming. So let's start with the construction permit application. This block here that says identification is going to be the same for just about every permit. Okay, identification, it's all the same stuff up over here in the upper left-hand corner. They want to know where the work is being performed, who the owner of the home is, and who's doing the work. And that's really all this asks for. So proposed work at site, we would say basement remodel or something like that. Okay, I'm not going to fill all this out. Name of owner and fee. So for my home, that was me, my telephone, my email, and my address. They also up top, the block, the lot, and the address of where the work is being performed. And since I own the home, I'm doing it at my house, all this stuff is basically my address. My block and lot information I got from my survey. And depending upon where you live, you may not need to put that in. And then the principal contractor. So that's your information. I just put, for here, I literally put self, and then not applicable, NA. That's it. Because I'm doing this myself, I'm not using any contractors for any of this work. If any of that changes, then I'll have to submit a revised permit. Or, so what you don't want to do, because I think it's against the law, is to fill this out saying that you, the homeowner, are doing the work, when in reality, it's Joe the plumber, or some other contractor that you're paying and you're not disclosing that. Your contractor needs to fill this out and submit it if you're using a contractor. Okay, and then they're supposed to put their license information on here. You could fill this permit out for a contractor. So I've done that in the past, is say, I'm having work done and I'm using a contractor, and here's the contractor's information. Here's his name, here's his address, here's his license number, federal ID number, all that stuff. So you can submit this on behalf of a contractor and pay the contractor fee or the permit fee, but you don't want to hide the fact that you're doing that. Okay, so that's just the information. Again, it's all either, for this, it's me and it's my house. And in New Jersey, you're permitted to work on your own home for plumbing, electrical construction. When I lived in Philadelphia, the only thing I could do was framing work and insulation and drywall. I couldn't do electrical, I couldn't do plumbing. They don't allow you to do that unless you're a licensed and master electrician or plumber. So let's get into what would you put on here. So when you get into here, the next thing is proposed work. For a basement, I would say like a renovation. I think that's all I put is renovation. And then what codes apply? Building applies, electrical applies, plumbing applies, fire protection. And I broke out the cost for each of these. So building, this is my framing lumber. This is insulation. This is drywall. Electrical, it's all my cabling, my outlets, my switches, my lights. Plumbing, it's the PVC pipes, it's the PEX supply lines, it's the toilet, it's the shower, it's the vanity. That's plumbing. Fire protection is smoke detectors, really just the smoke detectors and the cost to rewire them to include the additional ones. So basically I check these out, I put the estimated costs, I add up the total. I really don't go into this part over here, which is section 5 isn't filled out by me, it's filled out by the township. Section 6 is building site characteristics, number of stories. I fill this out very lightly, like it's a 2-story house. I don't know the height. I'm not looking it up. None of this stuff I'm really affecting because I'm not I'm not putting an addition on the home. I'm just finishing the basement. So I think for my basement application, I didn't fill any of this section out. And then description of building use, residential, it stays the same. I don't think I changed, I even filled this part out. And then on the second page, you have to fill out that you're the owner and I'm doing the work. You basically check the right box and sign it, and that's it for this one. So if we move on to the building subcode, so the difference between the construction permit application and the building subcode is the building specifically talking about your fire block, your framing, your insulation. It doesn't care about the electrical, it doesn't care about the plumbing. So all this stuff over here gets repeated. Description of work is I would put basement remodel, framing out basement, and plans provided. That's all I'd put. And then it's like, I guess it's a rehabilitation or whatever, like it's a renovation, and most of the time the township people know what you're doing if you talk to them, and they can figure it out. Okay, if you don't check the right box, they can let you know. Let's see, so that's it, cost of doing the work. Again, I'd put that down here, and then I'd sign it. Just so you know, these forms are New Jersey specific. I'm not sure if they apply to other areas, but the content is going to be very similar in other states. And I can also, I have these forms, these are available on the state's website. I can go into my construction office and they'll hand me hard paper copies of this stuff, and I can just take it home, fill it out, and bring it back. Once these are approved, I have to pay the fee for the renovations. To get the permits, you actually have to basically pay for them. Again, electrical subcode, let's talk about these last couple real quick. Electrical, again, the information over here is the same. They just want to know what you're adding. So I'd say how many lights, how many receptacles, how many switches, how many smoke detectors, if you're using a backup generator, all that stuff comes in here. Garbage disposal, appliances, you'd put the quantity. They only care about sizes once they actually ask you about loads, but they don't care about sizes of lighting fixtures. They don't care if you're adding a giant chandelier or like an overhead ceiling, like a basic overhead light. They don't care. So again, this gets submitted and signed. Plumbing subcode is identical to the electrical in that the information's the same. They just want to know what stuff you're adding. So you're adding a water closet as a toilet. Are you adding a urinal? I don't know who would add a urinal. But these paperwork apply to both residential and commercial. So sink, dishwasher, all that stuff. So you basically put the quantity, enter the cost of the plumbing work that you're doing, sign it and submit it. Fire protection subcode. I think for this one I just put this is for the smoke detectors. And I had a conversation with the fire code guy about like how to do fire blocking. And that was it. So description of work, basement remodel. I'm adding, CO detector. That's basically it, or a smoke detector. So I'd print this out and submit this with the rest of the plans. So that's it. That's really all there is to the permits. It's this paperwork looks intimidating. It's not too bad as long as you have a good idea of what this will cost in terms of your material. You can enter. You can fill this envelope out pretty easily. And if they have any questions, if you have any errors, what they'll do is they'll call you and say, on your permits you submitted, you need to change this here. Is that okay? Yeah, all right. And then you go in, you pick up the permits. It took 3 weeks for my permits to be approved. I had submitted them before the Christmas holiday, and I think I picked them up like the first week of January. So it took them, three weeks or so with the holiday. I think a 2 or 3 week turn time is pretty average. So I hope this video was helpful. And in our next video, we're actually going to start cutting lumber and installing stuff for the basement.